So I have to say, it's not just Andreas, it's also Michael and Thomas, and you have the same thing in the international world with John and Paul. But I think this is just one element. I think what is much more important is what we can do about female or women empowerment and how we can use the potential, not just of famous female powerhouses, but also of the potential we have here in the room. So the workshop is more about you, about your competencies and what you can do with those key competencies and how you can create a brand. But before we jump straight to the session, I have a question for you guys. I like to know what are your role models and why? Because there is a strong belief that role models actually influence who you are, what you want to be, and how you get there. So is anybody courage enough just to give us a quick heads up on your role model? Oh, here we have a volunteer. Is that right? Do you want to stand up and just let us know who actually influences you? Ah, there is a mic. That's cool.
Is anyone who has started from scratch, had nothing financially, economically, had nothing at the beginning of his life and during his childhood, but he survived and he managed to have a very good life then at teenaging and during his work and career. Anyone who had started from scratch is my role model. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's lovely. And I love to hear that people in your closest environment that are those ones who have a most impact on you. So actually, I have just asked that question because I brought my, let's say, role models with me today. And I can tell you, they are not just female, I have to say, because we are 50%, but there's also another good 50% of people I admire. So role models in that way, I brought with me one role model. She is a heart surgeon. She's Turkish origin. She has been grown up in Germany. Her mother is illiterate. Her father was a factory worker. And maybe some of you know her. She is such a superstar, but she is so natural. It's Dr. Dile Gürsoy. And what I love about her, she made her way in that industry, you know, heart surgery, becoming a medical doctor, working with a lot of men. And in this area, there is a lot of prejudice, a lot of saying that to get up to that level, it's really hard work, that's for sure. But she was also the first woman in Europe who was capable of transplanting our artificial heart. So, and I love her because she is a very personal person and she is really down to earth. She's a great supporter of our network, of the initiative Women into Leadership. She's the mentor from day one. And if you have a chance, this book, unfortunately, is just available in German. But if you have a chance and you speak German, I can strongly recommend that because this is a very fascinating story. Then I promised you, I brought some man with me, and I love him. It's Andreas Krebs. And of course, he's also a German, but still, he is now an international superstar with his coach. I call it the gray hair factor. He was the global pharma business executive, and now he's retired, but he's still a strong supporter of other women, and he's invested in various businesses. Why did I choose him? Of course, he's also a mentor, but I think the book he has written with his counterpart is truly fascinating. He's really investigating why so successful companies like Nokia and of all the big names at a certain time of their success suddenly failed. And they discovered that there is a relation to the Incas. You know, the Incas in their time, they were so sophisticated, much more than the Europeans before they came to Latin America. So, but even the Incas had the problem that at a certain time they just disappeared. And the reason he found out has a lot to do with the neglection of no innovations and also of a kind of nepotism. And I think this book is available in so many languages. And if you want to know great things about leadership, there's All In. And they even went to Vietnam with this book. They love it. And I have to say, I read it as well, and I love it as well. So, but he's a cool person too. And I also thought about some other, we always hear why are women having difficulties to make it to the next level. Especially here in continental Europe, or let's say specifically in Germany, we have this so-called, if you decide to work part-time, this is the absolute career killer. That this hasn't to be the case. It has a lot to do with the company culture you're working in and the role models you're seeing there. Unfortunately, sometimes you see women, great performers. They have decided to give 100% to be full-time in job, which is okay, but they are the only one, and they are making the scene. So for all the other women who might have a different view on that and decide to do it, to pursue on part-time career, it is very difficult because there is this one woman at the top and everybody is looking at that woman as a kind of reference point. And that can bring a lot of problems, especially if you're not sharing that vision and maybe you have other ideas about your personal and professional career. And he is actually trying to twist it. He is a very successful manager at Mitsubishi, a Japanese company, and he and his wife, they got twins, and he decided to stay home and manages his career part-time. And I think that is quite nice to see that there are some other examples to think about. And talking about disruption, because that is what energy and the energy climate change is all about. You see that in the mobility sector as well. There is one lady, Katja Deal, she has a very different view how the mobility in larger cities should be designed. I was given that book by a very close friend of mine. She said to me, you have to read through, don't stop in the middle. I know she's giving you some very tough arguments. And I have to say, at a certain time, I thought, oh my God, is this woman extreme? I don't know whether I follow that. But I stick to the book at the very end. And what happened is that it created a kind of, not that I think I changed completely my mindset, but it helped me to probe myself. And I think that's the best thing you can do. Once you have a position, probe yourself, be open, and be ready for something else. So, but today's session is, of course, about personal branding. I brought you the role models because I believe that has an impact on how we perceive ourselves and how we want to be. So, what does it mean to become a real brand? Does anybody have an idea what it actually means to become a real brand? As a person, not just as a product. Yes, customers, so you think you need an audience, right? Who says, I like her for that and that and that, or I know her for that and that and that. Yeah, that's very good. Who else?
Maybe to come up with something new to provide the
Yeah, that can help you to shape your own brand. That's true. If you are surprising, innovative, right? We love that because that is new and it is just connected to yourself. That's definitely a brand attribute. And I saw some other finger. Yes, please.
Maybe also to make your strength and your potential something that is very special about you, like a unique selling proposition.
Yes. Here's a marketer. Yeah, here you are. That's true. That's definitely true. And I like the successes. Never think of your brand in the way, oh, here I had a failure. That didn't go great. Of course, people like to talk nowadays about what didn't go well. But when you want to create your own brand, we always talk about your personal success track record, right? Because that is what people want you want people to remember you with. So, and to look what it is, I just brought it here. It is about visibility. Brand is definitely something which overlaps your current job because it can provide you the prerequisite for the next big step. And last but not least, if you are not the one making and discussing your own agenda, somebody else is defining that for you. So it's important that you know for what do you want to be recognized? What do you want people to talk about when you are outside the room, right? If that is not clear, you are transporting the messages. So it's better that you have that in mind. But how do we do that? It sounds, okay, these sentences are easily to be accepted, but how do I get to my brand? How do I know what I want to be known for? Of course, I have experience, and you easily see that from your CV, right? Like 20 years in electrical engineering. Wow. Okay, but maybe somebody else have some same amount of experience than you or as you. But the thing is, competencies are really related to your own track record. And I show you a model how to do that, how to get into your competencies. The good message is everybody at least have 8 to 10 key competencies. There are more out there, but let's focus to the 8 to 10 you have, because like in marketing, like when you talk about a laundry product, if you put too much on the table, nobody remembers, right? Some people like to give, oh, I'm great at that, and nobody is listening any longer. So it's important to be precise and focused, but related to your track record. The next slide, I have to apologize, is in German, but I'm going to translate it because I want to have your idea what industry this might be. So that is a competency model, like a lot of companies have it nowadays, because they want to use it for job interviews, they want to use it for promotion talks, etc. A competency model is not something which is only designed by HR, just to make it very clear. If the competency model is done correctly, there is a company strategy. It has something to do with the business model, because the competencies we need on each layer should fit into the overall business challenges and the model of your company and the business you are in. For example, if you are now driving the transformation of the energy sector, it is a very wise decision that you should have as a key competence, as in your competency model as a company, transformational skills, right? You need people who can do that. If you are not reflecting on that, it's a problem. Who should do the job? It's not just the upper management. It has to go within the entire organization. So For those of you, I just have a look, who doesn't know it, so it talks a lot about methodology, structured thinking, analytical skills, customer orientation, and risk management, which is also in some industries highly important. Anybody in the room who has a first feeling which industry that could be? Is it the energy sector? What do you think? Any guess? Yeah, but industry, I mean, is it energy? Is it, luxury goods? Is it banking? Who has an idea? I hear something? Yeah, there's a lot of elements you can take from a lot of industries, but in that case, it's actually the banking industry. That is the saving bank in Germany. They have created that competency model. And what they do with it is that they use it unilaterally across all functions to see whether the talents in the firm have the type of competencies they look for. And that is for them a kind of pre-description, a prerequisite for the next step. And you can use it when you have those interviews, when you have the promotion talks, when you want also to see who is key and essential in the firm for driving the next step, and that is where you use it basically. So, and what we have about personal branding, and I know maybe there are some people in the room here who are simply thinking, oh my gosh, this is too much. I'm not this marketing type of person. I have some biases concerning to that topic. And there are a lot of myths because people who tend to work very focused, very analytical, maybe are just driven by the job they have in front of them. They are not so much in favor. But I want to give you an idea why personal branding is much more than that, and that those myths are in reality what they are, a myth. Because if you want to make the next step, it is so important that the people, that you have a great understanding for what you stand for, right? And where you can have a proof of evidence and where you want to go to. So this gives you the opportunity to provide the way for the next step. And as some other people have said, that is actually what people talk about when you are not in the room, when you are not present. And remember those situations where people of power sit together and thinking of a new project, thinking about a new initiative, or maybe another management job. They are dropping names, right? And they are discussing names. And the problem often is that sometimes there are names dropped where they are known in the organization, but then those people are not the right ones for the job. And that can happen if somebody is too much introvert, is not really taking the airtime to come up with what they are good at. And that's why to create their own brand is so helpful, not just in terms of promotion, but if you want to have an impact in your projects with your, let's say, stakeholders, it's so important that they know who you are and for what you stand for. So how does it work now? I talked a lot about what it can, but now we want to see how it works. How can I actually filter my key competencies? As I said, we have a competency-based interview. So by that, I get an idea how it works. So with the competency-based interview, I want to understand what is the situation, what is the impact somebody has, how has the person took the challenge, and what was the outcome. And the good thing is we are always talking about the successes you had in the past, and then we look at that. What is the difference to typical interviewing processes? You get a question like, okay, what is your responsibility? Then you will say, I'm leading a team of da-da-da amount of people across many countries. I'm driving that project, etc. That is a nice description of your job. But does it really tell whether you are good at leading people, whether it was your contribution that this project worked out well, or who else was it? And that by applying this methodology, we get a really good understanding. We do that with the stars, like situation, task, action, and results. And once we have identified our core competencies, we use them to position ourselves. And there are certain ways to do that and to make sure that we are seen for what we are good at. So, as I said before, to do that, we need a certain setup, a certain systematic, that is the stars. We look out for trusted advisors, because this exercise is much easier to be done with somebody who you trust, somebody who understands and sees you, and to use that as a kind of dry run. And with the findings you generate, you create your own positioning. So, and a competency is your behavior in a certain leadership situation. Something you can observe, something where you can see how you went on with a certain situation, whether you encounter internal resistance, how you manage the situation, and then you come up at the end with the results. It's not like this is the situation, here's the result, because that doesn't tell you anything at all what was your contribution. It's all about how you did it. So, and when we do that, you can demonstrate your specific knowledge of an industry, of a certain topic. You can make sure you use it as a kind of perception model for others, so they know once you introduce yourself, that is what I should know about her, and that is where she can help me with. Once again, the situation, task, action, and results, you see that in front of you. If you have, we have distributed, I think disseminated the sheets. You have the star model there, and we will show you later how we apply them. There is a sample of questions. You see here the methodology, and I have brought with you 3 competencies. And the way you do it is always that you ask yourself, describe a certain situation where you had to manage a challenging communication. Maybe you just got the information, I have to ask my team to cut out or take out costs. Something which is very hard because we were already very cost sensitive, and we have to do that because the project is in dire straits. The way you do it and how you've dealt with internal resistance. Maybe somebody was opposing that situation, saying, hey, that can't be true. We were working hard here to make it happen, and now you're saying to us we have to take out costs. I don't follow that rational. Let's talk about it. So by doing that, using that methodology, you can clearly see how you manage that situation, and somebody who will do that together with you can already give you a very good indication whether that competency is well-founded and well-prepared. So why is it so important? Why is it important to know your competencies? Basically, it is an overview. It gives you an indication whether you are ready for the next step, right? To do that and to have an idea about what are the relevant competencies to make a next step or to go into management, it's always a precondition. Of course, you have to be great at your job and you have to do the things right. But to make the next step, it gives the people around you a projection whether they can trust you, that you are capable of doing a bigger job or having a bigger responsibility. And that's why it is so important, once you have the feeling you want to make the next step, that you do that exercise for yourself. So that is a lot of talk, and I think the nicest way to do that is to ask somebody on stage who was courageous enough to say, hey, I like to face that live interview with me. And I would like, Victoria, where are you? Can you just raise your hand? Hey, come on stage. And now we will actually have a dry run. And we will, the task will be, I will interview Victoria in a certain way. And the task for you will be to take the sheets, look the way I do the interview, and then try to figure out which competence. It will be just one because the time is limited. Take a seat, Victoria. But take that, figure out which competency I'm after. And then we will we'll refer to you and see what we get out of you, Victoria. Thank you for being with us. Thank you. So, I take the mic with me. So, the good stuff is we had a little bit of, that's your mic, right? We had a little bit of pre-discussion, nevertheless. Yeah, I think it should work. It's on, yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, here you are. So thank you so much for making that possible. Actually, I had the chance to look through your profile. It's very fascinating, I have to say. So could you give me, just as a kind, in a nutshell, like a tour de raison through your profile, how did you get there where you stand today? And if you can make that in 5 minutes, I would highly appreciate. I know it's a challenge, but we try the best. And for the guys, before we start, I just show you a brief overview of your... Okay. Can you see something? Okay.
Okay. First, thank you for having me. My name is Victoria. I am 35 years old, and I graduated in electrical engineering. I started to work as a business consult junior in a company called Sustenta, and my role in this company was to create, to manage and give assistance in energy efficiency projects. And I stayed there for 3 years. Then I started to work in another company called Solar Fonte, and as an assistant in energy solar projects. And I stayed there for 5 years. I design on-grid and off-grid projects. And while I was in this company, I started my master degree in science and in environmental science and technology. And because I was very into teaching, that's what I like to do, especially in this company called Solar Fonte. I had a role to train the technicians, and I start to get enjoy in this role. So that's why I decided to seek experience in teaching. And last year I moved to another company and another job, and now I'm working as an electrical technical instructor in renewable energy in a technical course school.
Wow, what a journey. So I'm totally impressed. I have to say, I'm not so much a technician, but I appreciate the progress you made during your career. So, and being today a professor for that subject, I think that is quite, it's enriching and it gives something back. So that is very impressive.
Thank you.
So that is what you normally do in interviews, right? You make a short introduction, tell about yourself. So do we already know some competencies? I don't know. We know she has done a nice step up, right? You are in the engineering, but we don't know so much how she did it, right? We see from her profile, yes, there were a kind of progress, but how that happened and why it happened, we don't see. So my first question, and here we are in the situation, could you describe a situation, and now I'm after a certain competence, could you describe a certain situation where you encountered a challenge of accomplishing your goals, and what was it?
Right. Well, when I was working in this company called Sustenta as an energy efficiency energy project business consultant, our company had signed a contract to another company to replace their fluorescent lamps. Yes. With LED lamps. So when we just started the project, the customer came to us and asked us if it was possible to short the timeline, because they wanted the whole buildings, and it was 7 buildings, very large 7 buildings. If it was possible to short the timeline, because they wanted the whole buildings with the new LED lamps and the new LED lights before their anniversary company.
Okay. So quite a challenge,
yeah,
to restart the whole project design, etc. What was your role in that?
Well, my role was to raise the quantity and the characteristics of the existing lamps, the existing lights, the system light that they had, and also to raise the consumption and the numbers of payback, the economic numbers.
Okay, so quite responsible role in that whole setup. How did you do that? So this is actually the action. How did you do that?
Yeah. Well, first we start to think how many people we got to do this work, and also we take all the plant of the buildings to study more better the infrastructure of the buildings, and we came up with a plan to make the same steps of the one building and how can I say?
Multiply it?
Yes, to the others, because we realized that the buildings had the same infrastructure. So if we get how to do in the first building, we will capable to do to the others.
Okay, that sounds pretty rational and logic. Did you encounter any backlashes? So I just have the understanding, if you come up with the original plan and that obviously was already tight, then the customer said, hey, I want it faster because I'm having an anniversary, and you did all the observations and calculations. Was it so easy to convince your team, and how did you do that? Because what was their reaction on that?
Well, we had a meeting, and when we present the plan, and we showed to our team what was our plan. So we schedule to do each day one building each day, and we raise all the logistic plan with the costs to do that, and with a very good plan, very draw plan, we can convince them to get the job.
So they all were happy.
Yes.
For extra workload.
Exactly.
Okay. So what was the outcome at the end of the day?
Well, we got it. We had succeed.
Okay.
Yeah. We take all, raising all the numbers of the lamps, the characteristics. It was well done as we planned, and we also delivered the buildings with the new lights.
Okay, that is on the functional side. What did it mean to you?
Well, for me, it was very important because it was, how can I say, one of the first challenge in my career. And I was very young at the time, and show me that I am capable if I keep logical, if I keep
Structured.
instruction. And also I have learned that it's important to have a team, to have people that are by your side. Yeah.
So the customer was happy.
Yes.
And you did you get any recognition, a paycheck, salary increase, whatever?
Well, actually, what happened was that they give me recognized as an outstanding talent in the front of the other employees. It was very pleasant moment, but also after that, they started, the company where I work in started to give more responsible jobs. They start to trust me more, and through this, I start to learn more.
Okay, wow, that is a very nice example. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Victoria. So who has got an idea what type of you see all the competencies on the page. So what is your guess? Which one was I after? Okay, can you raise your hand so that we see who has got an idea? Okay, yes, please. Can you stand up just? Yeah, yes, that is what we discussed at the beginning. It goes into the direction, and sometimes you have a certain situation, you ask specific questions, and what can happen, you look for one competence and you get the others on the fly. You get strategic orientation was definitely in it. What else? What was I am after? Yeah.
It sounded like you were asking about problem solving and how she came over hurdles that were in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely problem-solving skills, competencies. That is what you had in your job on a daily basis. That's definitely the case. Okay.
Maybe her resilience, how she was able to
Yeah.
react under pressure. She gave you a good, let's say, insight on the fact that she acted, she created a simple solution to something that was time constrained, and also, yeah, a lot of pressure under her, and she was able to come with a simple, quick solution.
Yeah, it sounded like, if I remember correctly, that you came up with this solution. I could have asked her more about, did the client call you? Did your boss ask you at day's end, what is the status? How did you deal with that? You know, about this resilient part of it, but definitely, I'm sure you were totally resilient. And I think you got as well, first here and then there.
Okay, so I think two competencies came to me while this interaction was taking place. So the first one was drive for results.
Yes, you got it.
Okay. And the other one was stakeholder management.
Yeah, and you see, I was after driving for results, but we got so many other competencies on the fly. Yes, please.
Hi, she trusted herself. She accepted the challenge.
Yeah, you did, right?
Right. But before that, I trust the team, and they motivated me. And when we got the result, I could trust myself more. But thank you.
And how did it feel for you to be interviewed in such a way? I don't know whether you had comparison with other job interviews, but asking about a specific situation, about the way how you worked in that setup and what the behavior was, how was it for you?
How I used to feel in the interviews.
Yes.
Well, I used to feel comfortable, especially because I apply to jobs that I really want. Mm-hmm. I don't used to do a lot of interviews because when I stay in a company, I stay there until I came with another idea or something like that. And but for the last year, when I wanted to change my career, to become a teacher, I did a lot of interviews, and it was a little difficult because I didn't have any experience in teaching. So I have to explain that I do train some technicians. So it was a little different compared to the other interviews that I did. But I try to stay calm. I try to breathe. So it's not.
I think you did it perfectly. So thank you so much, Victoria, for being on stage. A big applause to Victoria. Woo! And. So I really hope by this little example that you could see how we actually can get the competencies out. And normally, if you do that in a full format, you would take 2 to 3 hours, right? Because if you really want to go competence by competence, there are so many situations you can challenge on. But you can see by that way, it gives you much more essence than just asking, okay, what is your responsibility? What is the outcome? It doesn't tell you anything about the way somebody has done it. So, okay, given the fact that we have now understand better how we can get our competencies. So what shall I do with this? Is there anything I can work out about? Yes, you can do. Of course, you can use that. Once you have them all, you can use them to position yourself. And like Victoria, she did it also quite nicely. I would guess you did it more or less instinctively. You applied for a new job where you had no former true large experience. Of course, you trained your technicians, as you said, but it was in that interview where you really had to prove I'm up for the next level. And you can do that as well. I brought with me an executive bio. What is an executive bio? You see it in international companies. If you, for example, introduce yourself to somebody who doesn't know you, you normally would say, hey, I have attached my bio, so you see in a nutshell what I've done, how I did it, etc. That is quite common, and it's a nicer way than just sending a CV, because the CV is always associated with, okay, she is on the run. She wants to have a new job. Sometimes you have that in mind, but you don't want that the other people know, right? Maybe you just want to use it as a nice entry point that the people who are interested in meeting with you, for what reasons ever, have a good understanding who you are. What is the nice thing about, if you can see here on this side, on the left side, here you find all the competencies. And in the middle, it's what I call, it's actually the elevator pitch. If somebody wants to introduce quickly in the conversation, that is really a summary of that person. And then on the right side, you see the classical CV part, right? Very brief, just the key facts, not too much. And the beauty of that is you can put it on one paper and one page. And she was really hard to manage because she had so many experience. She wanted to have it all on one page. Normally it's a little bit shorter. And in the middle you can normally nicely put your photo, so that people have a view who you are. And that is something where you can say, that is what I want the people know about me. I'm defining my agenda. I define what they should know about me before I go to a client meeting, before I meet new project colleagues, or before I meet up with my new boss or with my new customer. So that can help. But what it can also do, because as we all know, we are in a kind of social media hype, and LinkedIn is nowadays something which is used quite heavily. In the professional field. Of course, there are Insta and others, but I would say for people who are in professional positions, they normally are very easily found via LinkedIn. And LinkedIn formerly was a way of getting in touch with people, and nowadays it is much more. It tells you how a person perceive certain issues, they take a clearer stance, they articulate themselves on certain societal or political issues, etc. As I always say, it's up to you what you want to disclose at LinkedIn, because some people don't want to say too much and use it as a second kind of CV. Here I brought with me two examples. The one here is Marsha Schmidt. She is the Chief Marketing Officer at SAP. And she is not only talking about their products, but she is really conveying messages. And you would say, okay, she's in marketing, that's part of her job. But the way she does it is in a very personalized way. She's connecting with people, she's connecting with stories, and by that she is a kind of brand ambassador for SAP, but also for herself. Because it's not just what she does at her profession, but really it's more about her big five for lives, right? What really intrigues her, what makes her laugh, and that is something where I think it's a fresh way of using LinkedIn. And the other one, in Germany, she's quite popular. It's Tina Müller. She was the CEO of Douglas, a perfumery chain. And what I liked the way she did it. She started there 5 years ago. Douglas was a kind of normal drugstore type of company. No special reason to go there. And she created the brand. First, she said, we really need to empower our customers. It's all about female empowerment. That's why she pushed that topic very hugely. And then secondly, she said, I want to see more female entrepreneurs. And that's why I'm investing in other female businesses. She did some competitions of younger brands, like cosmetic brands, very innovative, not well known. And by that, she pushed her agenda. And she got so connected to Douglas that when she resigned 3 months ago, she even used that as a platform to celebrate her 5 years with Douglas. And you can still see today in her profile on LinkedIn the way she comments, the followers she gained. So to me, she's a kind of role model, how she created her own brand in her role. They are, of course, some examples how you can do that. And I hope you have found a little bit of inspiration. And maybe you will try your own brand composition after that workshop.